Tears of the Kingdom is great, but it's not the game of the year. Let's discuss this. Hello everybody, my name is Marsh. Today we're going to be doing a review of Tears of the Kingdom. As you heard from the beginning, I think it's a great game. I do enjoy it, but however, I don't find it to be game of the year. I'll go ahead and give you the reasons why, but overall, I did enjoy the game. So this is not me coming here to bash on it and say it's the worst thing ever, so I apologize if I offend anyone. If you do end up enjoying this video though, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and that would be greatly appreciated. But let's go ahead and get started. So for this review, I'm basically going to go through some pros, some cons, talk about what I like and dislike about the game. We'll start positive and we'll talk about some pros first, and then I'll get into my main critique about the game itself and what I have issue with when it comes to the game. But in terms of the first pro, the overall creativity of the game. What do I mean by this creativity? Well, it's pretty obvious. If you look at all the Twitter, Instagram videos and highlights of people making contraptions with the building system in the game, the creativity is basically endless, at least to the point of what your imagination can do and what they provide you as the developer. It is truly the epitome of an open sandbox game. I mean, you have something like Minecraft, which I guess is the king, but that's the point of Minecraft, is to be a sandbox game. This isn't meant to be a sandbox game. It's meant to be a Legend of Zelda game with the sandbox as one of its primary elements. And I do think the building system overall was improved from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom, and that actually helped to make the game even better. The Breath of the Wild building system was a little bit more janky per se. With it, I think they really refined it and made it what it is, and preferably the better version of what it is. And you see so many of the crazy contraptions. Some of my favorite videos are people torturing the Koroks, like in multiple different ways. They're funny, and everyone's like, Nintendo didn't intend for us to do it this way. I always get a laugh out of those. And that's honestly the best part about this game, I think, is the community around it and the building aspect of the game itself. Now let's talk about another positive as well, which is the setting of the game. Yes, it's in Hyrule, but they added a few more layers to the setting. So you have your base Hyrule, which is the same as before. Obviously some of the towns and areas have changed what they look like and things of that sort. But you also have the new areas in the game, which is the depths and the sky. And the sky isn't as developed as I would like it to be quite honest. It is sort of just like, here's some floating islands in the sky, but I mean, it's still interesting what you can do with it and the verticality they brought to the game instead of just horizontal. But the depths is where it's a little cooler. There's way more to explore, more to find out and figure out, and just overall, it's basically a whole another Hyrule underneath. And the thing I like about it is it's like a hidden history essentially for the game, because it's a world we'll never see. But now that we're getting a view on it, it's opening up like, oh, what happened here? What turned this area to look like this kind of thing? However, even though it is a new history or a new unraveling of the game with the depths, there are some issues I have that come with that. My main issue with this game is just the story in general. So basically, the story is as milquetoast as it can be as possible and generic. I mean, I guess you don't go into a Legend of Zelda game for a story thinking it's going to innovate and change how you think about all gaming and how gaming is narratively written. And so I wasn't expecting anything amazing, but it is quite lacking and predictable, which, I mean, you don't expect it not to be predictable with a Legend of Zelda game, so it's not a full knock on it. There are a few moments that are cool. I think the cinematics in the story are cooler than the story itself. I feel like if we got to explore the past, it would have been way more interesting. Or even if we had portions of the game where we can play as Zelda in the past and go through that world and help that. Maybe they're planning that with DLC. I don't know. But that would have been more interesting and helped develop it more. That being said though, there is a story there. There are some good moments in the story. I think after you find the 5th sage, that's where it really takes off story-wise. Prior to that, it's kind of like, okay, we'll do the same thing as before. We're going to go to these 4 villages and we're going to help them out in the area, solve the problem, and then with that, they're going to give us the ability to defeat Ganon. And so really, it develops after the 5th stage, but prior to that, it's just basic. That's my main complaint with the game in general, which is also why I say it's not my game of the year, because I do want something to encompass everything with that, which is, I guess, somewhat hypocritical if we look at the game of the year last year, which was Elden Ring. However, Elden Ring does have a story. It's just given to you in a different avenue, and the gameplay itself is just so fascinating that it was more justifiable with Elden Ring, in my opinion, because I've never been so addicted to a game as it was with Elden Ring. So it's kind of hypocritical me saying that the story is the main reason I wouldn't give this game of the year, but that's truly how I feel about it, because at least me personally, with my taste, I'm not a puzzle gamer, and so a lot of the puzzles I don't enjoy in any games in general, and so some of them were enjoyable in Tears of the Kingdom, but it's not my cup of tea. And so even though I'm saying it's not game of the year, it's not game of the year for me. For you, it may be game of the year, and that's totally valid, and I totally understand why. To focus on a little bit more positive stuff, because that's really the main complaint I have, let's go ahead and jump into another positive. The other positive I want to mention is the art style in Tears of the Kingdom. It's the same as Breath of the Wild, but I think after getting something like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where we see how badly it runs and how poorly the Switch handles everything just in general graphically, the fact that they can make something, a console with the power of a PS2, look like it's not a PS2 game is amazing. And I think a large reason for that is the art direction that they use in the game. And it just makes me look back at things like Pokemon Scarlet or Violet and be like, well, maybe if you weren't rushing everything out and trying to get the new Pokemons out on new games, you wouldn't run into this issue, and you can actually develop it to make it look beautiful and run perfectly like Zelda. Obviously, there are a few issues when it comes to frame rate when you're doing a lot of explosions especially, but to be honest, I'm a console gamer. I don't really notice that per se. I didn't drop too many times for me either, and so I don't really have an issue with that. But overall, the fact that they're able to do that and make the art direction so good that it doesn't feel like it's running on a PS2 is amazing. And I know it's not a PS2, but the Switch is very out of date. The other thing I wanted to applaud the game for is the exploration. This game constantly rewards you for going to every nook, cranny, and crevice and seeing what you can find, helping villagers out with certain quests, and doing different things of that sort. There's always something around the corner you want to do. If you want to collect all the Korok seeds, you can do that. If you want to complete all the dungeons, you can do that as well. I'm not personally a 100% type of game person, so I'm not going to do that. I'm a very story-oriented person. I'll do the main storyline. If I'm in love with your game, I'll do every aspect on the side, but that's really hard to get me to do. Only a few games can really have me do that in terms of like Skyrim, Elden Ring, and a few like Bethesda games, but other than that, I'm very straight storyline driven, and so that's partly why I waste story so much. But the exploration is still amazing in the game, and it gives you plenty to do if you want to do that. The other thing I will say about the game in terms of gameplay overall, I haven't really talked much about the combat. I've noticed in this game you can really play it like a Dark Souls if you want, or you can play it like a crazy maniac builder like in Dexter's Laboratory or something. You can fuse a million different things together and use those contraptions to destroy whatever you're going against, or even use your building and reverse time powers to just annihilate any enemy you want. And it really is an open toolbox in terms of combat and what you want to do with it. Now, that being said, I'm a very basic person. I don't want to deal with no fusing, no doing nothing like that. Give me the strong weapon, let me beat it with a hammer. I'm very basic. And so that's how I played the majority of my game, but it gives you the ability to play it how you want. You can put a bomb on your shield, jump on your shield, and have it explode in the air. You can attach 2 spears so they're longer, attach a wooden plank onto a stick so that you can blow people away, emitters, sapphires, rubies, like there's a million different combinations you can do. So it really rewards you if you want to be creative with it. And if you don't want to be creative, you can still get through the game. You're just going to have to play it a little bit more like Dark Souls. Because at least for me, I kind of, with my tendency to avoid crafting, I ended up going to Ganon and not having any way of combating the gloom. And so I had to beat Ganon without taking a single hit because I only had 5 hearts left. So I guess I could take 1 hit. with my armor. And so I basically beat Ganon like Dark Souls and didn't take a single hit, but it did take me a while to learn his pattern and movesets and things like that. But you can do it however you want when it comes to it. And if you want, you could make your character super busted and overpowered. That's partly where the exploration comes into play as well. The more exploring you do, the easier the game will be to you, because you'll have more health, more stamina, things of that sort. I'm very straight line. If I see a dungeon, I'll do it, but I'm not going to seek them out. Overall, though, that's basically my thoughts when it comes to Tears of the Kingdom. There's some pros, there's some cons. The pros lie in the game itself. The cons really are just centered around the story itself and the characters. I have no attachment to these characters. I don't care about the little villagers. If anything, I'll burn them like the Koroks and be on my way. But there's no reason emotionally that I was invested in the story. That's my only complaint, really, but it could be different for other people, and other people may have cried at how beautiful it was and things like that. It never really hooked me, though, but I didn't really expect it to. I still loved the game, though. It's not my game of the year, maybe yours. If it is your game of the year, let me know down below. Let me know how horribly wrong I am as well, because I'm sure I am just totally wrong when it comes to that, because it is a very popular game. But other than that, though, if you did end up enjoying this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. That'd be greatly appreciated. And I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye.